Hey everyone, I'm Spiro Skentzos. I'm your moderator for Intro to TV Writing. Thanks for coming out this morning and joining us. I want to introduce you to our very awesomely talented people who are on the panel today. First up, a writing duo, a dynamic writing duo with 16 years experience in the television industry. Benjamin Raab and Derick Hughes are no strangers to genre storytelling, Their screen credits include such fan favorites as Quantum Leap, Legacies, Arrow, The Flash, and Warehouse 13. And they also adapted various graphic novels for both film and TV, including Infinite Kung Fu and Black Cotton Star. They are also in the process of writing and producing Renegade, an original sci-fi adventure miniseries co-created with artist Pete Woods to be published through Mad Ghost Productions and distributed by Image Comics. Please welcome them. Next to me is Letitia Baylor. She serves as Director, Current Programming, Scripted Content for NBCUniversal Entertainment Networks, where she oversees current programming for scripted content across NBC, USA, Sci-Fi, and NBCUniversal's streaming service Peacock. Letitia shepherded groundbreaking diverse genre series during her 20-year tenure at NBCUniversal, including Sci-Fi's The Expanse, The Magicians, 12 Monkeys, and Queer as Folk. Currently, Letitia manages USA's Resident Alien on Peacock, the reimagined Bel Air, Fright Night, The Burbs with Keke Palmer, as well as the untitled Simu Liu spy drama. She started her career in 2004 as an assistant at Sci-Fi. Originally from Baltimore, Letitia has been a sci-fi nerd since before she can remember, and currently resides in LA with her pit bull mix, Phoebe. Please welcome Letitia.
I'm happy for you.
And next, Eric Heisserer is a showrunner, screenwriter, director, and producer best known for creating the Shadow and Bone series on Netflix and writing feature films such as Bird Box and Arrival. He's currently developing a prequel series for Pacific Rim with Legendary. Eric is an avid reader of manga and loves Japanese candies. And over the past 23 years, Henry Alonso Myers has written or produced for series such as Charmed, CSI, Daybreak, Chuck, and Ugly Betty, for which he was nominated for an Emmy for Best Comedy Series. He was executive producer for all 5 seasons of The Magicians on Sci-Fi and co-showrunner for season 5. He has been executive producer and co-showrunner for all 4 seasons of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. He was born in Spain, raised in Ithaca, New York, and attended Wesleyan University, where he majored in film studies and American studies. He is married and has 2 sons. Please give them all a big round of applause. To get started, to give us an idea of the lay of the land, who in the audience has written a spec script of an existing show or an original pilot before? Put your hand up high. Oh, excellent. I love it. And then who is here because they have not, but they want to and want to learn more? Anyone? Great. All right, so that kind of gives us an idea of who's out there. How many here have applied to writing programs?
Run away. Give it up. This is
What?
it. Don't do it. Don't listen to us. No.
How many here have applied to writing programs in the past? Okay, great. All right, so just to kind of get started, the trend used to be that you would write a spec of a show, a spec of an existing show, and that you kind of had to have that as like your calling card that you can write, and then it became more the trend to have something original that you write, and then there was one of each, and now it's all originals, but then some producers still like to see specs of shows. So my question to you all would be, what's your take on speccing a show? And does it matter if you're reading a first-time staff writer? If no one's reading specs anymore, what is speccing a show worth? Like, why is it good to spec a show?
I think it shows you know.
Please speak into the mic, sir.
Sorry. I think speccing a show shows that you have an understanding of how you can provide something for a show that you didn't create. You know, how you can do someone else's voice, but bring something to it. And that to me is the one thing that's really missing when you read someone's brand new spec. You know, it's nice to see that, like, oh, yes, you have a voice, yes, you have a perspective, but you also, you know, can write a 6 feet under script. Like, that to me is because that's the actual job, and that's the part that I think that's the part that gets lost, I think, when you don't do that.
Yeah, and exec once told me, like, I love your voice, now do my voice, like that type of experience, right?
Yeah, I think it's very important, especially early on in your career. You have to remember that you are trying to write for a show, that you're demonstrating that you know how to capture the voice of a show. Sorry, I have silly putty on the top of my. I just had dental surgery, so I'm realizing I sound weird.
They don't know what you sound like, so you sound fine.
You know what?
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. Y'all don't know what I sound
gave
like.
yourself up.
Now they know, and you'll be judging me the rest of my life. That's good. No, I think that the pendulum swings back and forth. I think what happened was that there were so many people that were writing Law and Order scripts, and executives just got tired of sort of like reading the same thing over and over again, that they started like gravitating towards originals, which is great because, again, it's like you said, it shows that you have, you're able to build worlds, write interesting characters, and so forth and so on. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the showrunners, they need to know that you're able to capture a voice because you're writing for their show. And and so they got to read something that you know how to, that they're familiar with, and saying like, oh, this script that I read of, I don't even know what shows good. Like, okay, Strange New Worlds. Let's take that. You capture the voices of all the characters, this sounds like their voices. So I know that I have some confidence that you'll be able to mimic and capture what I need for my show. So and then so you can have both an original and something based on a show. I think that you can never go wrong with a combo platter.
Do you think for starting off, that's a really good way to go? It's one of each.
But it's also, in addition to voice, the benefit of writing specs on existing shows is that you demonstrate you understand structure, because every show has its own structure that is inherent to that show. There are some, I want to call them templates, but sort of versions that most like network shows tend to follow. They're not all consistent, but every show has its own internal rhythm that if you can capture that in addition to the voice of the show and the characters, then that will demonstrate to whoever's reading you. And by the way, if you've written A Strange New Worlds, don't expect Henry to read it because he can't, right? Like there's legal reasons why that's possible.
Eric can.
Right, exactly, Eric can.
I would say it's a great example, too, because it's one of the rare shows out there that allows you a tonal freedom. Yeah. Like the show that Henry created here is a marvel because it just gives you so much elbow room to find your own voice while sticking with the structure of something that's already established and characters that are already established.
That's like the X-Files model.
Yeah. Letitia, from an exec standpoint.
I never read specs. I mean, I read scripts. I just don't read specs. Like I don't think I've ever gotten a spec come through my desk. It's all originals because by the time it gets to us, you guys have already read it. You've decided who you want, and then we want to read something original. You guys have already realized that their voice is great, but we need to see what else they can do. So by the time it comes to us, we are just reading originals, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, they are. Let's stay on originals then. Like, why are those good? What are you looking for? Like, when you read a script, a lot of you are on genre shows. Like, are you only reading genre scripts? Do you only want to read a script that's got a superhero in it because yours is a superhero show, or a space woman because yours is a space woman show?
No, I mean, we want to read things that show what you can do. I mean, yes, great, we're doing a superhero genre show, but we're not just telling, stories about people in tights beating the crap out of each other. We're telling stories about real human beings and real characters, and we want their stories to be imbued with perspectives and point of views that are relevant to the show, relevant to the characters, but also relevant to the writers who bring their selves to the table. I mean, when we're sitting in a writer's room surrounded by, 10, 12 people, we don't want all the same person. We don't want everybody to be the same writer. We want, distinct voices and personalities, and you all bring something special with you because you're not all the same. So lean into that. Lean into who you are and what you love, and you can't go wrong with that.
That's why originals are so important to us too to read, because we know we have this piece of the puzzle in the room, but now we need somebody who can do this, and now we need somebody who can do this and this. So that's why originals are so important to us, because we already have you guys as the base. And now we need to fill the room with other people, comedy, or people go with action, or dialogue, or character, or whatever it is. We need to find people that are as strong as you guys in doing that, in specific things.
Just to offer a slightly different perspective, only because I think every showrunner is going to be completely different and approach things differently. When I'm looking for scripts to read specifically for this show, I am really strict about. I want to know if they can if they can do genre, and more specifically if they can do science fiction. And not because I want it to seem like every other science fiction, but there's a level that every type of story requires that is different. If you're doing romance, you have to approach it with an understanding of character. If you're doing, something that's set in space, you have to understand how you create world building. Like that's a thing that I don't think that they're gonna, in a cop show, I don't know that that's gonna come up. Yeah. But like you're gonna think about, those people from that planet have a very different perspective, and this is why they have this really complex religion, and why they look at people with green hair, dismissively because of the past on that planet. That's not a thing that someone, who sends you a soap opera might necessarily consider, and you want to know that they approach it specifically for this show.
Yeah, you're really looking for the world building element for specs on your for your show.
This show, but so
for this show.
I think the way I have come to look at this is that I just want to know that you understand the show, and either doing a spec that shows you understand the type of show, like I saw a show and here I know how to do it. That's one thing. Or you say like I've watched a lot of this kind of show and I'm doing my own version of it, shows I understand this type of show. So I think I'm sort of just looking for the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Are
think
you looking for a musical episode? I'm just saying.
That's a specific, difficult genre to approach, and
The musical sci-fi drama.
yeah, I think that's a really narrow one. But like, to understand, not at the moment, but I'd be open to it.
Derick, you're saying?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, yeah, I think that, he hit it on the nail on the head is, the fact that when it comes to, like, we were fortunate enough when we were on Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap is a story that, basically you can tell any story, right? But at the same time, inherent in it is, there's still a bit of world building. There's still a bit of these characters that you're following through this journey over the course of the season. And like you said, where sometimes if you have someone that just comes straight from procedurals, they have a difficulty of trying to grasp that so it's hard to do, like when you're building a room, that, do you want to spend that time trying to teach this person, or do you want to hire someone that already has that and then be able to build everything else off of that, right? So there is that balance. And I think also the other thing that I think that is important is they gotta like this stuff. You gotta love it, or you don't have to necessarily love it, but at least like it. If you hate sci-fi, why are you in a sci-fi show? Why are you applying for it? It's like that, yeah.
That's following your heart, following your passion. Like, you should write what you love, right?
Yeah. If the show isn't right for you, not getting that job is actually a good thing. Like, that I know it seems terrible in the moment, but the long view is you want to be drawn to. You hope for a job on a thing that is right for you, because if you get a job on a show that's not right for you, I was on CSI, and I learned how to write it, and I could do it, but it wasn't right for me. Like, and that was probably the hardest year I had on a show, because I was trying to do a thing that deep down I didn't love.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk about the first 10 pages when you're getting started with your spec, whichever type of spec it's going to be, an original or a spec of a show. We can talk about the importance of the first 10 pages. People hear about this a lot. Eric, do you have specific thoughts on that? Like, if you're writing a TV spec, how important are those first 10 pages? What do you look for? And anyone else, of course, jump in.
Well, I think the first 10 pages will demonstrate a fluency of the genre that they're writing in, and a grasp of structure, and understanding of what a TV episode is like. And within 10 pages, there's got to be a reveal, a twist, a conflict, some sort of escalation, and how that's handled on the page lets you know. I know there's a comfort that when you're reading a lot of this materials, you get to someone who clearly has command of the story they're telling in those opening pages, and you just sort of settle in. You're like, all right, I can get me a coffee, and I'm going to enjoy this read, versus when you find somebody who's really grappling with this, it feels like they wrote it because they know that there was a job going on, so they bang something out to try and get a spec for that, and you're like, I don't think this person likes sci-fi, so yeah.
Yeah, I'll stop reading.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah. I'll stop reading it. In the first 10 pages, I need to be there. I need to feel it in some way, and you can make somebody feel it in the first 3 words. Like, you know what I mean? Like a good writer can. So if it's in the first 10 pages, if I'm not there, I'm not feeling something, then I have way too much to do. I need to move on. And but I think I've said this before, I'll read a script and I'll cover to cover, I don't care what's going on, I need to finish it. I want to read a script that I want to see that show. Not that I'm doing the show, but that I want to watch that show.
Again, that goes to passion and knowledge of the structure and the craft. So just a reminder for anyone who is about to submit to any programs to polish your first 10 pages, make sure you have your inciting incident, make sure the characters are people you want to root for, right?
And it's hard because 10 pages is generous these days.
Yeah.
There's there's some places where they're like first 3 pages and you're dead to me. That's it, and you're
I
like.
do give it an act. I give it an entire act. I don't do 10.
Yeah, it's because you're a good executive. There's some people that would be like, nope, round file immediately, and it's sad because there's sometimes you do discover it at least by page 10. If not, then you're like, okay, I got a pile of scripts that I have to read, and if it's not grabbing me, I have to move on. And so it's like when you're writing these, you got to think of it. This is your calling card. So you want to put your best foot forward. We always joke like, hey, first 10 pages, after that, it's all downhill. But guess what? We made you interested in those first 10 pages. So if you can at least get people interested in the first 10 pages and work on the rest over and over again.
Yeah, I think that real estate is really tight now because I had an EP up here once who said, I'll only read the first 5, and if I like it, I read the next 10. If I like it, then I have my assistant finish it. And I was like, that's intense, so like this is the playing field. This is what everyone is up against now with scripts. Can we talk for a second about the phrase, write what you know? Because I think sometimes that gets misunderstood as a literal thing. And if that's something that any of you want to jump in on to start with to kind of tell us what you think that means.
I think it's more a case of like, why are you writing this story? And it comes even to a spec. Like, why are you so passionate about telling this story with these characters? Like, you have a connection to the characters. Maybe you love the show. That's why you're hoping to get on it. And you have something personal that you want to get out. There has to be something the same thing with the first 10. There has to be something semi-autobiographical about this story that speaks to a truth about the experience of these characters that is also your experience. And that's what gets me to feel something. That's what, like, on season 1 of Shadow and Bone, I read this writer. I was looking for somebody who had, and I didn't even know I was looking for it until I read this, who had experience with war. And I read this piece about someone who was a child in Sarajevo and when it all went sideways, and how they had to get smuggled out with their parents in what they called the Sarajevo cab, which was essentially like a little Citroen beat up with armor plating on the windows in order to get through the gunfire and out. And this was his true story of how he grew up. And he had that connection to like what it means to be a refugee. And he brought that to the room, and it enhanced everything whenever we got into wartime stuff. And so like, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that sounds like an intense story too.
It's an intense story.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit about recontextualizing. It's not write what you know, it's know why you're writing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, 'cause, right? I don't know why we're writing. Because here's the thing, I don't know anything. Like, anytime I sit down to write something that's outside of my world experience, it now becomes a learning experience for me. But I know why I want to write that story. I know why I want to tell that story. And now I have to immerse myself in the things that I don't know, from my life experience, that I have to learn about someone else's experience and try and put myself into their position, into their story, and write something that is hopefully compelling and emotional and moving, which is not an easy thing to do. But if you know why you're doing it, if you kind of have a purpose to this piece of material you're going to create, then it goes a long way.
I think that kind of really speaks to the point of the question too, because it's not that write what you know, like, oh, well, I know that yesterday I got coffee and then I did this and I did this, but it's like, you all have written for superheroes, in outer space, vampires, to my knowledge, you're none of these. You're here in the middle of the day. So there is that, what is the emotion behind being in space, being a vampire, et cetera.
Yeah, I'll have a meeting. I'll read the original spec for a meeting, and then I'll meet that writer, and I'll feel like I know that writer because of whatever story they're telling, whatever the story is. When I meet them, I start talking. I'm like, oh, that's why that happened to that character. Oh, that's why they're feeling that way. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, I have this one dark piece, and whenever I go in for meetings, someone's like, I really thought you'd be a little more heavy because this is really a dark piece.
Like, are you okay?
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll do Q&A in a few if people have questions, but the next question for me would be, taking a look at these scripts, reading the first 10 pages, reading the entire script, what would you say are some beginner mistakes that are turnoffs, or things you'd like to see, or things you're like, I got to put this down?
So one of my first jobs in LA was I was a script reader for the William Morris Agency for a few years. I probably read about 500 scripts a year. This was what I did instead of going to grad school or doing that was how I spent my time, because it really gave me an image of what the industry was looking for, what worked and what didn't, and you really saw it quickly. And there were like a couple real basics at the time. I don't even know if this is an issue anymore, but like if they have, it was literally things like I could scan through the pages, and if I saw too many dense descriptions that went on for a long time, I knew this was not going to work. If I saw too much dialogue that was really long, I knew it was not going to work. If I saw that they put their address on the front of it, I knew it was not going to work. Like, I hate to say it. Like, it's things like that that really are a key, because if they put too many fancy things on it, I usually know it's not going to work. And I say that with the understanding that everything I'm saying could absolutely be wrong. Absolutely be wrong. But if you're reading, whatever, like 10 scripts a week, 500 scripts a year, 98% of the time I was right. Which all it means is that, like, just know going into it that some of those basics are a thing that you have to step past, or you have to step through, or you have to find a reason to use it. You know what I mean? Like, if someone were to put some random address at some place in the middle of the country at the time, they could still write an incredible script. But it never happened while I was reading. So, and if they did that, and then I was reading a script and suddenly their address came into the script, and I was like, oh, I see why they did that. That would be interesting. But I might miss it if I don't read the first 10, if I stop at the first 10 pages. I mean, things like that. If they change like which font they're using. Like, it's so stupid.
You're so
but
upset at it. You're like,
no, it's really, these are real basics that like yeah.
Well, this also goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like you have no excuse because scripts are everywhere online.
Oh, yeah.
And you can get that education, right?
There's so much education out there that's ridiculous. It's like I'm so envious of people that's starting out today, at the same time terrified, because there's so much information. But that's a very good point. It's like you should know your structure. You should know how a script works, how a television script works, and get the basics down. It should not be 9 acts in a script. It should not be to be continued. That was one time I read a script where I got to the end, it said to be continued. I was like, what do you mean to be continued? Like, well, I'm not gonna read the next script of this. This is it. It's like,
I'm still angry about that.
can I tell you?
Oh no, I'm just saying. So
It wasn't a good to be. It wasn't like I want to know
no,
what happens.
it was an alias spec. It was this is a long time ago, and it got to the end. It said, and Sydney Bristow and her, and she has a sister to be continued. And I'm like, wait, what?
That's another rule. Don't introduce characters having siblings or dead relatives that come back if you're writing a spec on a show that a character doesn't have any of those things. Don't make up mythology in your existing shows. They have their mythology. Stick with what they gave you.
That's a really good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
In the class that I'm teaching, a couple students were like, "Is it to be continued pilot?" I'm like, "No, like you're not doing that. Like, no, people will be so mad at you." And I know, like, Buffy's the biggest to be continued pilot ever, big success, all that, but you need to be able to tell a story in that 60-minute structure, the 30-minute structure, right?
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, one thing that always turns me off, and as the only person who identifies as a female on this panel, I can say that what turns me off is when I read a description of a woman and it doesn't know that she's attractive. Or that all the men are described as their wonderful attributes and she's described as being beautiful or tall or some descriptor that has nothing to do with her personality.
Very demure.
But all the men are, right, exactly. So I would say be careful of how you describe people too, because your audience.
I always say they're all beautiful. They're actors. Like, just you don't need to say it. Do we have any questions from the audience? You here, and then we'll do some over on the side. Yes.
Many years ago, I was a reader for Warner Brothers, and I actually read a script that I really didn't like, but the writer actually made it on the lot and did an interview with the producer. I'm just thinking, okay, how do we get to that point where, I mean, you're not even, you don't even have a name out there where you could get a screenplay to a producer? I mean, is it just simply get your agent and then have them, send it out or what?
So I'll repeat these. So the question is how to get your work into producers' hands.
Yeah, like a Letitia or an Eric or a Henry.
Yeah. I think a lot of that is going to be connections or agent-based, but tell me.
It's all in who you know. I mean, on the base level, yes, it's an agent or a manager, but I've certainly read scripts from people that don't have an agent or a manager, but because I know somebody who knows them and they say that they like them or whatever. So it definitely happens. Maybe that case was that too. Maybe it's they just knew somebody who knew somebody and they happened to get a meeting.
This won't be helpful, but I'll tell the story because it's often
Use the
told.
mic.
Which is to say, there's an old story about, there's an old standby about how to get an agent, and the first thing is you write an amazing script, and then you bury it in your basement, and then you go out of town for 3 weeks, and then you come back and there will be agents all around you. And the hardest part of that is writing a great script. Like that's honestly the thing that, I mean, I know that's not helpful and it's not useful, but like that is the thing that they'll remember. It's the only thing you have in your control. The rest of it is like, you may know someone, you may not, but if you write something that is great and you know that it's great, and this is when I was a script reader, what I kind of figured out from reading was, all right, I remember the ones that stand out. I remember reading the early drafts of The Insider and being like, well, that's a really good script. Like, I really see it. Like, it stuck with me. And that's what you're competing with. You're competing with the great stuff that you read. Like, not just, oh, I saw a terrible movie and now mine could be as good as that terrible movie. Like, write the great thing that you want. Which I know it's not helpful to say that, but that actually is the most important thing you do. Everything else is a little bit like, some of it's luck.
Absolutely, it's a who you know, what you know, the timing of it. It's it plays a lot of that plays into it, and then at the end of the day, also, like you said, a great script will get the eyeballs on it, and so and it's all subjective because what you think is not a great script, someone else will be like, oh my God, that was amazing. I need to introduce this person to this person, right? And the other thing is like with Ben and myself, like I said, we've been writing now in television over 16 years. We still get meetings based off of scripts that we have written or will write. And it's like, regardless of our credits, because they're always wanting people, what's next? What else you got? And so you have to think about that as well as like when you write that script, put that aside, write that next one, because it's not about just having that one script. It's got to be what else you got, because I guarantee you that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, it took Derick and I 8 years to break in. 8 years of trying, 8 years of submitting to the writing programs, 8 years of getting rejected, 8 years of going out for staffing and not getting a job, to the point where I was like, I've got 2 kids and I've got to figure out a plan B because I was supposed to be on a 5-year plan and it's year 8 of the 5-year plan and my wife's looking at me going, what's going on? And then that was the summer where we got into a writing program that changed everything for us. And it was a script we'd written, maybe 2 years prior to that. We'd written 5 others before that. Different shows, different attempts, different things that tried to showcase our abilities and what we could do. And then all of a sudden, there was one that just suddenly resonated with people. And once that thing resonates, it just opened a slew of doors. And that's what will happen when you write that one.
Yeah, there was someone behind you. Yes.
Eric, I had a question for you. I was wondering how you got into contact with David and then kind of like your role in turning the short film into a feature for Lights Out. And I was just curious about the process
I had met him at all before that, but I was sent the short film from a producer who was doing his best to get the rights from David. David, of course, is being courted by a number of producers at the time because that short film blew up in the best way. And Lawrence is like, can you talk to him? And I'm like, well, sure, but I don't think he knows me. Like we've not met before. And weirdly, the only thing he had read from like the American screenwriting market was my early draft of Bird Box, and he was like, oh, I'll work with Eric, and of course that script never got made. It was a different version that got made, but it was interesting for us to get in the room together. And I said, David, I got to tell you, it was a phenomenal short film. It scared the pants off me. There is zero story. So like we have to find what the story is, and I have a bunch of pitches, but maybe you have a bunch of pitches. And sure enough, he did. And so it was us collaborating early on, and we clicked. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And like there's so many short films where you say that to the director, and they're like, "What are you talking about? It's got play. It's just 8 minutes of story." I'm like, "No," but thankfully he was ready, and we rocked. So that's how it happened.
Great. There was someone in this area who read their hand up. Was it yes? Okay.
So my question is, you mentioned earlier about a person that was in Sarajevo when all that went down. So I'm a satanic ritual abuse survivor, and I'm part of an RPG game. And I want to incorporate my life experience about going through that. What kind of guidelines do you use when you're writing? Because we have a novel series that's separate from the game itself. And I want to incorporate some of what I've been through, but I'm like, how do you write something without scaring an audience? Or when is it too much to share versus not?
So the question is about when writing something that's super personal, how much to bring, the intensity to bring to the story that you're writing.
That's your choice. That's your story. You get to do with it what you want.
Scare the hell out of people. Do it. I mean, that's the thing. It's like be authentic. Write what you know, write in what you feel and the story that you want to tell. Don't let anybody else dictate what you're going to tell. Get it out there first. Then let someone say like, hey, we're going to pay you lots of money, but we need to make these changes, right? But until then, write the story that you feel is important, that you want to share, that you need to share with people. Don't limit yourself. Don't put yourself in a box before you even put it down on page.
Great. Let's have some questions from over here in the front and then in the orange.
Yeah, you talked a lot about the sort of early stages of kind of getting settled, but like you mentioned the 8-year grind. So you got your good samples, specs, originals, finalists, some competitions, got a rep. The industry sucks right now, trying to get
Yes,
entry
it does.
staff positions.
Welcome to
How do
group
you-
therapy.
Like, I mean, how would you recommend we stick through it for another 3 or 4 years before we get our?
So the question is how to navigate the hellscape. Right. Correct.
I mean, life will dictate that for you, right? Like if you're in a position to be able to continue pursuing it and writing it out, you've got a day job that allows you to sustain yourself and your family, and then you in your free time you do this until this becomes the thing, right? I mean, it's kind of how it has to be on some
But
level.
I would also say it's like, don't wait for something to happen. You gotta go out there and you gotta create it yourselves. Like the thing is, like we haven't been working since January. That's when Quantum Leap wrapped, and then we didn't find out we got canceled until May. But in that time, we were like, all right, we're not gonna just sit around. We're gonna write movies. We're gonna write comics. We're gonna do other interesting stuff, like with our beautiful friend right here, Tiffany Smith. We just did a Kickstarter for launching an anthology movie that we're going to direct for the first time. It's like because we're going to be like putting, you got to put yourself out there, and you can't wait. And take it from someone, I'm on the board of directors for the WGA. And we hear all the stories, and we know what's going on and all the hard times that everybody went through last year. And we are really trying to, make those changes. And and there was a lot of people that stepped up and made those changes for writers to create these opportunities. Fortunately, the rest of the town in the world sucks right now. But that, again, is like when it comes to just us as creators, you have to create and find all the other different avenues that are out there. That's the thing. You don't have to limit yourself just to television or to features, right? You can create that short. You can create, you know, the comic book, the novel. You can do all those things now that, you know, that then the opportunities will be there. And also just to maintain your sanity. It's like, that's the thing. It's like, because if you're sitting there just waiting, it's like I always use this quote, not a great movie, but I love the quote, and it was like from Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. And there's a bad guy in there, and he says, chance favors the prepared mind. So you have to be prepared. So the only way you're gonna be prepared is what? By writing, by having the material ready, so that when that chance and that opportunity presents itself, you have it. And that's the best thing you can do right now.
You remember the line, too.
The next question, the guy in the orange.
What would you say is your favorite thing to do when you hit a wall, or a limit? When you reach a bit too high, and what is your favorite thing to do when you have to ground yourself?
So when you hit a creative wall,
Not run a writer's block, when you're writing too much and you have to step back.
what do you do when you write too much?
Write too much? What are you talking about? I am a professional procrastinator, all right? It's like, writing too much would only be a great gift. It's like, yeah, he's the opposite. You do other things, right? That's honestly, if you feel like you're writing too much, take a step back, do something else, find something else to do. You know, it's like, don't just be beholden to like, I have to write all the time. Writing is, we're right now writing in our heads. It's like when we're walking on the floor, we're gonna be writing. You're always thinking. It's never shutting off if you're a writer, as a creator, you know? So it's like, just because you're sitting down in front of the computer and you feel like that you're cranking out these scripts and the pages, at a certain time, you have to basically give yourself grace and step away and do something else.
I
Yeah.
like the question of what do you do with a writer's block?
Yeah.
I like that question, too. What do you do when you have a writer's block? Yeah.
I think it's a similar thing. Like you need to do self-care, and you need to like step out and get re-energized and inspired again.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do laundry.
I watch movies, and I watch TV shows, and I read books. And I don't do it because I do it because I want to remind myself of what I enjoy about this.
Oh yeah, no.
Because like that's usually and usually that's the thing that I also go see art. I go see plays. Anything that gets my mind thinking about something else, and then usually what comes out of it is something that I did. Oh wait, I should do that thing. That thing would be great. Like that's how. But mostly it comes from not looking for it. Like trying to like. The only reason I do this is frankly it's a difficult job. It's a difficult industry. It's all of these things. But when I was a kid and I was miserable, the movies and books got me through the hard times, and comics.
Yeah.
You know, and I still look at them, and they still make me feel good. They make me feel things, and so all I'm trying to do is do more of that. So I just try to. That's what I go back to.
Great question. We have a few more in the black cap there, and then the black jacket with white shirt.
Kind of similar to that one. I just wanted to know, what do you do to get out of the LA bubble, I guess? Because when you're creating a lot, you live here for a long time, you end up just writing kind of what everybody in this bubble knows. And so I was wondering what you would do to really immerse yourself in a completely other city or completely other way of living.
So the question's really about, I think, research related, like how do you get out of your own way? How do you get out of your own experiences in writing, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I have the disadvantage of growing up in Oklahoma, and I have to go back there on a regular basis, and nothing shocks LA out of you more than stepping out of the Will Rogers International Airport. International only because it also goes to Acapulco. That's really, and you'll pass by a billboard out front of a church that says open minds should be closed for business, and it's just a different lane. It's a different vibe. Is the way I'd put it, My town's national export, I think, was racism. So there was an absolute, it turns things for you, and then you go back to LA, and you hug your friends, and you take some of that experience to the writing.
Great.
I think that also most of us up here have lived experiences before we were even in this business, in this industry. And I encourage you to basically go out and see the world, go out and explore things that are not here, that are LA based. Or if they're LA based, find people that are also from other parts of the world and other parts of the country, and get to know them and get to know their stories and get to know what's really going on there. But at the end of the time, it's, if you're at home, get on the internet and just basically read other stuff that's not just about LA, about Hollywood. And there's so many things at your fingertips. It's like I used to ridicule my friends when they first started out over COVID, over TikTok, right? And it was just sort of like, why are you sending me these videos about dancing cats? I don't care about this.
That's ironic.
Like I said. So now it's like, but I spend a lot of time on there, and it's just because you're having access and ways of seeing people's lives and POVs in the ways that you just normally wouldn't be able to get to on, just by sitting outside. So there's so many ways to, basically step outside of the world that you know, and I encourage you to do that.
That's great. Great response. Back here. Yep, and then you.
We have some comic book writers on stage, and of course The Expanse and Shadow of Bone were adaptations of novels. Is it a benefit to have people in the writers' room who have an experience with other mediums such as comic book writing or novelization writing? Does it add to the experience, or does it sometimes detract from it because other ones kind of think on the same plane?
Just to repeat it, the question is about, is it good to have people in the room with experience in other media, basically, right? Comics.
I think it's hugely helpful. I mean, I've worked with I've worked with comics people. I have comic people on the show right now. I think it's helpful to have writers who have any other perspective that they can offer. That's the other thing I tend to look for in a room is it's not that I don't want people who think like me. I want people who offer other perspectives, because I have my own perspective, and I'd like to hear what they have to say, and I'd love it if they tell me when I'm wrong from their perspective. Like, it's good to hear that, and any other genre can give you that very much.
Yeah,
Great.
As someone who started in other media and then got to television, I appreciate those people who, bring in outsiders who don't start in that world. I know on our first show, our interest in comics and genre was very helpful to a showrunner who was running a genre show that wasn't a genre writer per se. So he looked to us as, okay, give me the geeky stuff, but within reason. This is not just going to be a geeky show. This is going to be a show that's going to cover a lot of bases, and I want to make sure that base is covered. And so we kind of brought that perspective to the table, but there were others as well.
Comic book writers have a slight edge for me in that they are already thinking about where the camera is.
Yeah.
Great. Yes, up here.
Yeah, what were your second jobs before you made the break?
So what were your jobs starting off before you made it or got on staff?
I was a United States Marine, so I was in the military, and then got out of the military, went to college, and then I was competing in track and field and training for the Olympics. Then I was worked in Hollywood as PA, and once upon a time what used to be called a runner. They don't do those things now. It's like basically a runner is a person that has to deliver shit all over town, scripts, like physical scripts and tapes, and I'm starting to get PTSD. And then I was a writer's assistant on 2 different shows, and I was also a junior lit agent before I started writing.
Yeah, I mean, I started as an assistant editor at Marvel Comics. I did that for a few years, moved into the online space for Marvel at the very beginning in the mid-90s, and then went freelance in 1997, and I've been pursuing the writer's life ever since. It had its ups and downs, it's had its, definitely peaks and valleys, and there have been great years and there have been shitty years. But yeah, that's, but I did, I got to television at the age of 38, which, a lot of people start out right out of college, they've gone to film school, they've done all that. They were way ahead of me on that front, but I don't know, just determination and grit just to get there.
I think a famous quote from Steve Jobs was, stay young, stay foolish.
Still.
Great. Other questions? Standing up in the back, and then there was one over here. No? All right, go ahead.
Did you say, is cold emailing still a thing these days? It doesn't seem like it is.
Is cold emailing a thing?
Don't email me. Sorry.
Other question? Here, and then over here. Yes, yes, you.
Yes, okay, I'm trying to be a sci-fi writer, and my question is, how do you approach world building? Do you start with the characters? Do you only write really soft background, and then what's relevant to the season or episode? How do you world build?
The question is about world building, which comes in a little late because we only have 5 minutes left in the panel. So we can talk about that for a few minutes before we take our last question.
I would say if you haven't listened to N.K. Jemison's podcast about this, is a really great one that can help you talk about world building. But the short version would be like start from character and build outward, meaning like every world that you visit is a world where people live. The people might have weird heads and other things that you wouldn't see, but like you're approaching it as a viewer, and the viewer is a person. And the viewer wants to understand how people are and why does the culture exist this way? Why do people do that way? So like start from there and then you build outward. But definitely the N.K. Jemisin podcast on it is fantastic.
Great, thank you. Yes, last question, I think.
So I know that it takes talent first, and it is who you know. So are there any workshops or events, I mean, here's a great one, but that we can go and meet people, and like you said, don't email you, but then how would I get to talk to you? Like, where can I go?
I'll jump in real quick on that. There are services like Jen Grisanti, who I don't know if she still does, had a in-person, I know she doesn't live in LA anymore, but may have in-person meetups. Script Anatomy, if you go to scriptanatomy.com, they do in-person meetups throughout LA, I think once a month. Places like that are a good start. Where else do people meet? Where do people meet now?
Well, getting into some of the programs absolutely helps, but also like the Writers Boot Camp. It's, again, building your network of the peers that you're going to be developing these relationships with. Known these people a very long time, but, it's like because of where we all started, where you go, and it's like these, so you interact with these people in these groups at conventions. You find basically your tribe. You find the group of people that you're going to build these relationships, foster relationships, and then they, in turn, are going to know people, and they're going to be able to introduce you to people and stuff like that. It's just not an individual, existence as a writer, even though it seems like it's a very solitary existence. It's not. It really is a community. And so you got to find your community, find the people that you want to interact with, and then from there, it's like look at it the long game. I always say this is not a sprint; it's a marathon, and you got to keep that in mind.
Years ago, I was sitting in your seat at the Austin Film Festival and asked the same question to Frank Darabont, which was up here. And his answer was, don't look to us so much as to look for other people who are getting into the business at the same time, which is the whole find your tribe aspect. And I found actually just an online group, because I was, to answer another question, I was working as a cubicle zombie at an energy company at the time, trying to get out of Houston, and had no contact with LA and had no way in for that. So I found an online group who just continued to share their scripts with each other and critique each other. And as a peer review group, we grew together. And one of them broke in and suddenly did the bottled water tour and got everywhere, and then had a bunch of meetings. At one point in time, got a meeting with somebody who was like, oh, I'm looking for sci-fi. I don't have sci-fi. I know who does. You should meet my friend Eric. And he brought me in. And so that was the way that I got into it and managed to pack my bags and leave Houston and discover that the midway point between Houston and LA is still in Texas.
Send the elevator back down, for people. Any other thoughts on that? Great. I think that is it for us. Everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you being here. Please give them a big round of applause. We cannot be up here. We're going to be out there, so please follow us out.